You stop whistling so much, right? Really good at bird imitations, but I have never done a bird imitation whistle in a video. I'll do it out in my cabin. I'll do bird imitations, and I hear the birds. Some birds flock in. It's like, what's that bird? I'm serious when I say that. Everything is irreducibly simple when you apply retroductive metaphysical Aristotelian or Platonic makes no difference. Ultimately, they're both one and the same at the substrate, even though Aristotle was a bit too existentialist. Regarding love and hate, it's the same thing in photography. There are people that have endlessly analyzed photography, and I can make it really simple. A great image, whatever the image is, it either draws you in, or it pushes you away, or it stops you. Everything is about an action of impulsion or repulsion or halting you. You know, it could be a horrific image, a beautiful image, seductive or ethereal. Same is true when we talk about love and hate, as we talk about eros and the whole etymology of love, and I'm obviously not going to do that. I'm not interested in that in this video, and I'm not one to give romantic advice, so this is not a video about that kind of love. I'm just talking about the principles of love and hate. You've grown up in your own language, whatever language that is, whether it be Russian or English or French or German, sprechen Sie Deutsch, that hate will burn you up. It will consume you. You'll be consumed by your hate. There's a reason why evil is to be shunned. There's countless reasons why evil is to be shunned. But what it is directed away from the good. And what is directed away from the good requires the expenditure of energy. To burn something up, kind of like these digital logs burning on the screen, requires the consumption of something. Yes? And it's being burned away, and of course being diminished, and it's eventually turned to ash. Hate will burn you up means that it is directed away from the good. That which is most simple is directed towards the good, as in the case of inertia and acceleration. People will talk about gravity as a force, and I always do a facepalm because, of course, gravity is the complete antithesis of a force. Acceleration is the opposite of a force. Inertia and acceleration is a movement towards rest. It is a movement towards counter space. Love, of course, is directed. That which the good is that which the good does. And I don't care if you're a Christian. I don't care what religion or spirituality you believe in. It doesn't make any difference to me. But to have love, whether we talk about agape love, and of course a matter for another discussion, true love, not in the English love, but agape love, and I'm not going to get into discussing that, we make things a whole lot simpler. Is directed towards the one, or towards the good, because that which is in close proximity to the good, or directed towards the good, is just like falling. Now, there's countless things said in different languages that love is just like falling. No energy is required. And of course, ultimately, you're going to end up in a splat on the ground. We don't want to take that analogy too far. But that which is directed towards the one does not require expenditure of energy. Not only does it not require expenditure of energy, it is that which is most easy. People are to love one another in the truest sense. I'm talking in the Platonic love. I don't care if we say Platonic love. I don't need to get into making that. To love one another, because that is what makes life most simple. It is that which is directed towards the good, and also, too, emulates the good. That which is directed towards the good and emulates the good is the opposite of energy expenditure. These people you will see, and there's not too many in the world, but you've probably met some. They go around kind of like they're floating on a cloud. The reason why is that they're not burning up the energy of their soul. Now, it is one of the things of living creatures, is like a dog might see a human being that might have been abused its whole life, have anger and start barking at a human because it identifies with something horrible, and people have done horrible things in our life, and we burn up inside with anger. We want to do things in retribution. We want to retaliate, and I'm not going to comment on that, whatever. I don't ever tell anybody what to do in life. But this always, people, as I say, when we talk about karma, it's not like there's a filing cabinet up in the heavens, that makes people accountable for evil deeds that they've done, but they're always held accountable by the evil that they have done because it consumes that which they truly are. They are directed away from that which is the good. The fact that we actually want to amplify that and do things upon them for what evils they have done, that is completely understandable. I'm not a pacifist by any means. I'm not actually talking about in any way, shape, or form retribution at all. I'm not talking about that in this video. I just wanted to keep things light and airy. But people that actually have genuine agape or true love, they expend no spiritual energy. Hate is consuming. Evil is consuming. Evil is directed away from the one. A disembodied being is consumed by ignorance, desire, hatred. They are self-consuming. Now that consumption, just like this log, will eventually burn out. But I mean, you want a definition of hell? A disembodied being who's living over terrors and fears and horrors and desires and hatred, just like a record. Most of you probably never heard a record skipping, like a warped record. The needle just keeps skipping over the same spot over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, that is a genuine definition of hell. And until the log burns itself out and the expenditure of energy is completely exhausted, you have a genuine definition of hell. Hate and the ill will and the countless words that are completely and absolutely synonymous, they burn a metaphysical fuel within us that will ruin our lives, that will ruin that which is after this life, because death is not the opposite of life. Death is the ending of life, not the opposite. People talk about chaos. There's no such thing as chaos. It's purely conceptual. But anything that is directed away from the one requires energy expenditure. And it doesn't matter how tough someone is, how powerful someone is, how truly evil they are. It's like this is the quintessential evil that, no greater evil has been seen on this earth, for 1,000,000 years, whatever that may be. It will and must necessitatively, since it is directed away from the one, burn out. It will keep trying to feed itself, but in feeding itself it will become more insane, more deranged, more directed away from the one. You must ask yourself, and there's a really simple metaphysical premise of love versus hate. We could talk about different types of love, which I'm not going to do. Talking about true, genuine, metaphysical love, and we're talking about genuine, we say hatred, is that which is directed towards the one not only requires no energy, it is actually energizing. In the case of falling, you're not actually gaining anything, right? We don't want to talk about where you splat in the end here. You're not actually gaining anything. In the case of metaphysical energy and in the case of inertia, regarding the magnetic field, I'll use an example. As the actual field dissipates and you actually have increasing inertia and acceleration, you not only are not expending energy, it's not a return to the one. This is an important point people keep missing. Really miss. Not only return to the one in which there's no energy expenditure, it is a literal recharging. That's why you see, and there are very few of them, you might have seen some, these people that their lives, it just, and I not mean because they're rich, okay? People are dirt poor, they have nothing. It's like they float when they walk. You can tell they're energized. You have met them. These people can be disturbed. Now, how proximal they are to the one depends on how easy it is to disturb them. Some people are unflappable. They are literally standing like the Rock of Gibraltar, but those people are essentially non-existent. They do exist. How many are on this earth right now? Who knows? Easily less than a dozen, to be sure. Unflappable completely. People can be perturbed, Some people are, like the coldest ice. You can't shake it. You can't stick any waves in the ice. You could heat it up, make some water, make some waves, maybe. But it is not merely no energy expenditure at all. It is a recharging. This is true metaphysically. This is true regarding energy in the case of the dissipation of the toroidal magnetic field, where the loop is accelerating towards the null pressure point, i.e. the plane of inertia. There is not only no, and I know I'm repeating myself, but it's something nobody talks about, and I've never read it in any book. It is not only no energy expended, it is recharging itself. It is self-recharging. And that's incredibly important. Evil and hatred is the exact opposite. Not only is it the unending expenditure of energy, which is hell by definition, you are depleting yourself. You're filling up a bottomless hole. I mean, as I say, hate and evil will burn you up, and that's exactly what it does. There is no good side. You know, so there's the dark side and there's the light side. You know, talk about Star Wars reference here. What fool with 1 microscopic gram of wisdom would ever think the bottomless expenditure of energy where no recharging is ever possible? You can only feed it. Like, I can keep feeding this fire, yeah? It's not recharging the fire. I keep having to cut logs and feed this fire, feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. It is unending, it's tiring, it's hell, it's suffering, it's misery. Why would you want to keep feeding it? It is the complete antithesis of everything that is good, wholesome, pure, blissful. Just like falling, but way better than falling. Imagine in the case of falling, not only are you not expending energy, you are also being recharged in the process. Of course, doesn't occur in falling, so don't take that analogy that far. So, love and hate from the premise of metaphysics is rather easy and simple to understand. There is no upside to hatred and evil. Not a single one. Not one. It doesn't exist. Now, there are short-term assumed gains where, like, I have temporary power. I have power over others. You know, I feel strong. Temporarily. You know, kind of like a roaring fire. That's exactly the benefit, which is not a benefit at all, of evil and hatred that the fool sees. Is exactly like, and of course it's not a roaring fire, it's not even a real fire. It's like you throw like 100 logs on this fire, not you could fit it in this fireplace, and you have just an enormous roaring fire, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at that, whoa, man, it's putting off so much heat, just like reaching to the heavens. Can't be maintained. It's a temporary flash in the pan. That's what ignorance is drawn to evil, is, you know, the roaring fire. But they can't see the other side of the roaring fire. So you can't feed that, you can't maintain it. It is the opposite of recharging. It is a bottomless pit. It is like misery feeding misery, like a Mobius loop of hell and suffering. There is never an upside to evil and hatred. It's impossible. It's a metaphysical impossibility. So people can write books, and they have written books about love and hate. You can make it simple, as I've done in this video. That which is proximal to the one requires no energy, and also, too, it is recharging. This is true of love. This is true of what is closest to and mirrors the one, and it's also true of energy. They're completely identical. Mother Nature is extremely simple, but people have to have wisdom to see that simplicity, and most people don't have any at all. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, but if you hated it, also, too, let me know. I hated it! It's okay. That's okay.